So the lessons that I drew from that is, one, if you'd held a quiet meeting someplace to discuss that, no one would have shown up. You needed somehow to get people's attention to an issue that, everybody's really busy. How do you catapult something to the point where they're paying attention, learning something about it? We did it by seizing and occupying a building over a long period of time, but there are lots of ways to capture attention. But they found that if you, in fact, instead of just going around and asking people questions, give the protagonists in some issue a chance to write a one-page statement of facts that they both agree on that's presented to the people ahead of time. So you read 250 words of background that has no opinions, it's just the facts. By and large, people vote overwhelmingly right. That's to say, ways that I agree with. Hundreds of purposes of Earth Day, but the big one was to take this issue, which did not exist as an issue. In 1969, at the time of that sit-in, we'd said, what does environment mean? There's some small fraction of people at Stanford who'd taken psychology that knew that environment was a thing other than heredity that determined personality, but it had none of the connotations that environmentalism came to have. To take that issue, tie together all kinds of sub-issues having to do from dropping Agent Orange on the jungles of Vietnam and causing huge escalations in stillborn births and birth defects, to protections of wild endangered species, to freeways being cut through inner city areas, to pesticides having adverse effects upon bird populations, including our national symbol, and on and on and on, none of which thought they had anything to do with one another and weave them together into a fabric of shared values where they would work in concert with one another to get stuff done. Transformations in college campuses. We have now people learning to be environmental lawyers, environmental engineers, environmental everything, environmental literature, environmental history. It has permeated American society, but politically it has been viewed as an interest group, admittedly a public interest group as opposed to a special or a private interest group, but still one more combatant in the struggle for votes in the nation's capital. What seems now to have happened with the last election is that that has been transformed. Most people would not have expected the first black president to be the most environmental president in American history, bar none. But he has been. He recognized, with very good advisors, that the old false dichotomy between jobs and the environment just didn't make any sense. That the economy is a wholly owned subsidiary of the environment. Unless you do these things in ways that are sustainable, you are going to find yourselves in a position where, although you can get some short-term advantages out of it, you're not going to have an economy that continues to prosper into the distant future. You have to make the energy transition, the carbon transition. You have to pay attention to all the great global cycles, the hydrological cycle, the nitrogen cycle. He really seems at a gut level to get this stuff and to be putting people in place who are relatively bold and pushing in the right direction. But beyond simply getting out for electoral politics, you really need to get engaged in your communities. Here at the university, I have made something of a study of change around the world, political, economic, industrial, and it is almost always done by the young. But internationally, globally, there is not a single environmental issue from 1969, with the exception of the depletion of the ozone layer, that isn't in significantly worse shape today than it was 40 years ago. So I've done what I urged you to do. I left stuff for the next generation to do, and I hope you all dig into it and get it done. Thank you very much.